Hi, I'm Jeff Walters, and welcome to The Minutes. And thanks for listening today. It's great to have you along on The Minutes for the week of July the 15th, 2024. This is a City of Thunder Bay podcast. The Minutes takes a look at what happened at Thunder Bay City Council this past week. You can find The Minutes wherever you get your podcasts, including our YouTube channel and our website, thunderbay.ca/The Minutes. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening at City Hall, make sure you hit that subscribe button. On this episode, we'll have a rundown of what happened at this week's City Council meeting and an interview with Callie Hemsworth on the city's Recreation and Facilities Master Plan. We'll hear how the city is keeping places like arenas and fields top of mind and how there are plans for the future. That's in just a couple of minutes. But first, Council started off with a deputation from neighbors near the McVicar Creek area. They had concerns over people living in the area. Council heard the deputation and later in the evening approved some changes to the encampment guidelines. Encampments will now have further setbacks from waterways and rail lines. Administration will come back on August the 12th regarding one potential change, which would double the setback distance to 10 meters for an encampment from a trail, sidewalk, or parking lot, on or under any bridge or pedestrian access points to those areas, as well as those structures. Council approved the receipt of some funds that weren't in the 2024 budget. The money comes from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, Black Sheep Mountain Bike Club, Fednor, Resolute Forest Products, the Friends of Chippewa Park, and conservatory donations. The monies received from these groups will be used towards capital or operating expenses in their respective areas. The exception is the Resolute funds where chipped trees are sold to the mill for the biomass boiler. Council received a list of 33 new potential locations for Eye on the Street cameras. The program, which started in 2005, has a number of cameras throughout the city, with operators watching the cameras for signs of criminal activity or for people in distress. An expansion to the program is possible because of new funding from the province's Guns and Gangs program, which the Thunder Bay Police applied for. It is anticipated that with the latest round of additional funding, that 12 to 16 new locations for the cameras could be implemented. Council got an update on the Recreation and Facilities Master Plan on Monday night. The plan outlines short, medium, and long-term goals for recreation facilities and programs. Nearly 80% of the goals from the plan are complete or ongoing. We'll have more details about the plan in just a couple of minutes. And finally, Council signed a funding agreement for the Canada Community Building Fund. The fund allows municipalities to pool, bank, and borrow against the fund to help pay for local projects. This year, the city will receive about $6.8 million from the fund, which will increase to $7.4 million by 2028. The fund was previously known as the Gas Tax Fund. And that's a wrap as to what happened at Council this week. For more information on anything that happens at Council, please visit our website, thunderbay.ca/council. There are a lot of different ways that you can get active and involved in Thunder Bay. Maybe it's hockey, baseball, or swimming. For the most part, those activities are done at city facilities. The city has a plan on how it should manage those facilities. It's part of their Recreation and Facilities Master Plan. This week, City Council received an update on the plan and what still needs to be done to have the best facilities possible. Callie Hemsworth is the Coordinator of Planning, Projects and Development with the Recreation and Culture Division. Callie, thanks for joining me in the Minute Studio today.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, glad that you can make it in today on a pretty nice summer day, actually.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so let's start off with what exactly is a Recreation and Facilities Master Plan?
So the Recreation and Facilities Master Plan, in our case, it's a 15-year plan. It's a guiding document. It helps the city make decisions on investing in recreation facilities, programs and services, and providing community access to recreation. 15
years, that's a long time.
It is, yeah, and we're about halfway through right now.
How hard is it to look 15 years into the future?
It's a lot of work. We do a lot of research behind the scenes and do a lot of consultations with the public and try to gauge some of the participation trends for different users of our facilities and our programs. So it can be challenging, and there have been some changes over time that are somewhat unpredictable at times. We just made it through a global pandemic, being one of them. And that, that was a big challenge to kind of pivot a little bit on that and figure out how to provide recreation services to the public at a challenging time.
Yeah, when you couldn't do most things indoors, right? Or in groups or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. If we look back, you said we're about halfway through at this point?
Yep.
I guess I gave some examples right at the top. So hockey, kind of swimming, baseball. Do we have anything else that we do? What are the other big things?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's very sport focused, but, general recreation programming. So even think things like city events, those Live on the Waterfront and Canada Day, Teddy Bears Picnic, all the great events that the city hosts. And we do that with community partners. We couldn't do that without them. There's older adult facilities, so 55 Plus Center, West Arthur provides 55 Plus Center programming. There's our youth center at Kinsman Youth Center. There's a number of services that we provide that help provide access, like financial access. So think Pro Kids, think affordable access to recreation pilot. It's a broad scope that we're looking at when we look at recreation. There's multiple other sports that we're trying to serve as well. So we've got, the newer sports like pickleball to the community and cricket coming back to the community with newcomer populations. So it's a wide range. It's a big spectrum.
Yeah, I feel pretty narrow-minded just saying baseball, hockey, and swimming, I guess. Yeah. So if we look at the plan itself, as you said, it's 15 years. We're kind of halfway through. What are some of the highlights for you?
So we've done a number of facility upgrades over the years. In recent years, just recently we hosted the Ontario Winter Games. So that was a big one for the community. And a couple of years before that, we hosted the Special Olympics. Those are significant sport tourism events. That's a big part of the plan, is that we invest in sport tourism infrastructure. We were able to secure funding. Those types of events provide a lot of great opportunities to get funding that we might not have access to. And what that does is it doesn't just help that event, but it helps Thunder Bay become more attractive. It builds our reputation for people to live and work here, but also to attract new multi-sport types of events. And that generates a huge amount of economic impact for the community. So that's kind of, one of the more recent examples. We've also launched the affordable access pilot to recreation and transit, where we provide a recreation credit for those that meet low-income thresholds. And they can also apply for a transit, half-off transit monthly bus pass. We've launched the Youth and Family Support Program, which is really building on the success of the Youth Inclusion Program over the past few years. And that's providing upstream investment to really, make sure that youth have these services and access points that they need to prevent entry into gangs. And so, there is a recreation component to that as well. We've done, a number of, like I mentioned, facility upgrades and other ways, maintenance, that kind of thing. So those are just a few highlights. There's been a lot of work that's been done on diversifying programming and making sure our facilities are accessible. A lot of great work has been done. We've got about almost 80% of the plan is actually complete at this point. So it's a good news story. It's been great to see. Yeah,
and as you said, I noticed that the vast majority of things are done, or at least they're in a good spot to be completed. What's left to do?
So there's about 16% of the plan is incomplete, but still on track. So those are your longer term capital planning. Those are the big projects. So looking at, creating rec hubs, as the plan calls it. So looking at a north side hub and a south side hub. And that's really looking at co-locating facilities so that there's some efficiencies that can be found. So looking at the more short-term priority would be looking at the north side hub at the Canada Games Complex and Port Arthur Arena, and looking at how that space can be used to kind of fill gaps in programming in other ways.
And yeah, I've seen kind of, some pretty far out plans for that. Includes like central heating and another pad. Like that's what you're talking about when you're saying hubs?
Yeah, we have a campus there that kind of exists already. So it's kind of building on that to make sure that we're accounting for kind of new sports that are coming or other uses that we currently don't have a great deal of space for in the community. Potentially looking at a twin pad for the Port Arthur Arena. All of that work still has to be done. It's down the road. It's one of the longer term priorities, but work will be started, just kind of, the early stages of planning for that will get started this year.
And what about the south side? Because obviously you mentioned there's going to be two of these.
Yeah. So we're starting with the north side as the priority, but the south side is, definitely in the plan as needing a south side hub as well and looking at that. So that's a little bit further down the road than the north side one.
And would that be like Delaney area?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. There was some chatter about this at council on Monday night. What were they wanting to know when they got this plan in front of them?
Overall, the plan was well received, or the status update was well received. So we really only had one question around how council can continue to support plans of this nature. And really, they can, become more familiar with these plans and make sure that they're sticking to the plan as much as possible, recognizing that the plan has to have some amount of flexibility because we know things can change, funding can change, budgets can change, community interest can change and needs. So, but, just being aware of those longer term priorities and what the plan states and some of those goals and objectives of the plan can really help council make those decisions down the road.
And I guess when you talk about change, what has changed since this was written 7 years ago? As you said, I know we had the pandemic, and that's kind of the big asterisk on everything that we've done. But what's really changed for needs or desires in the community? There's
been a few changes. I mean, sometimes it's external to the city, and it's dealing with changes in our partners that might have been listed in the plan. So some of the partners that they might have changing priorities themselves in terms of their facility use and looking at it on a community-wide scale. Another example is the Fort William Gardens at that time. They were looking at a replacement strategy for that, and that since has changed, and council had approved extending the life of the current facility for another 15 years. So some of the recommendations in the plan are no longer relevant in the way that they're worded, but certainly down the road, this will help lay the groundwork for a future plan once we get to that point, which won't be until the next plan will start, in about 2032, I think, is the end of this plan.
And as someone who coordinates all of this, you see all of this going on, what kind of excites you the most?
There's a lot to this. I mean, I get really excited with the youth programming that's happening in the city, and I've seen a lot of great changes in that area. The 55 Plus Center is buzzing all the time. It's, it's a high use facility, great volunteers there, great staff. But like I said, some of those big sport tourism events that we weren't able to host in the past that we can now host because of the facility upgrades that we've been able to do, that's really exciting. Because it's not just great for those events, but it's good for the community as a whole, and it really helps to attract newcomers to the city, and it makes Thunder Bay a viable place to live and work, and that I think is one of the most exciting things to me. Yeah, it's one of those legacy projects, right? It's a legacy project. It builds Thunder Bay's reputation on more of a national scale, that we're serious about our recreation and sports, and we have a lot to offer. Callie, really appreciate you coming in today. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jeff. Callie Hemsworth, she is the coordinator of planning, projects, and development with the city's Recreation and Culture Division, and she joined me here in the Minutes studio. And a big thanks for listening to the Minutes this week. Of course, if you want more information about City Council, agendas, or minutes, just visit thunderbay.ca/council. If you want to listen to past episodes or maybe provide some feedback, visit thunderbay.ca/theminutes. You can also find the Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, you can find us on YouTube and on our website as well. That's thunderbay.ca/theminutes. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening at City Hall, just hit that subscribe button. I'm Jeff Walters. Thanks for listening this week. We'll chat again next week. Make it a great day.